Without a doubt, the human mind is pretty cool. But how unique are we? It seems to me that we're somewhere between computers and animals. Hear me out. The comparison to computers is simple enough. In Borges' Funes the Memorias, Funes remembers everything he has ever seen in exact detail. Every leaf on every tree of every wood. But he was disturbed by the fact that a dog seen at 3:14, seen in profile, should have the same name as the dog at 3:15, seen from the front. He can't make the simplest of generalizations, let alone create meaning. Funes is essentially a human computer, and a computer is useless without a human to create meaning from it. For example, if I search war in Google, it gives me plenty of information. Some news stories, a Wikipedia article, several sources of definition for the term, and even a band called War. But it gives no subjective meaning. Which is good, that's why we created computers. They give us the information so that we can evaluate it. While computers have more memory than any human will ever have, humans have the power to create meaning from what information we do have. When we look at animals, things get more complicated. Do animals think? Current consensus is yes, but how deeply can animals think? I should point out that obviously humans are animals too. And doesn't that just complicate the matter further? In an anthropocentric society, we are so used to placing humans on such high pedestals, because we couldn't possibly have anything in common with other animals. But we all come from the same evolutionary tree, so how different are we really? Okay, but clearly there is a difference. So what is it? In the book Animal Psychology, published in 1961, R.H. Smith writes, "Animals probably are aware only of what is happening to them at the present moment, with some dim recollection of the past, and no anticipation of the future." This is still a fairly calm belief of animal cognition, but the word probably strikes odd. Sure enough, the idea that animals only live in the present has been disproved in multiple studies. Referencing a much more scientific book, Experiencing Animal Minds, edited by Julie A. Smith and Robert W. Mitchell, it was found that chimpanzees and gorillas can identify a photograph of an event 15 minutes after it happened, and scrub jays, magpies, and rats can also remember the who, what, and where of past events. Furthermore, studies have showed that scrub jays store food for the next day's breakfast, and chimpanzees store rocks to later throw at people. So, it seems that animals can, in fact, mentally time travel. So, what's the difference between humans and animals? Surely there must be one, or I would be busier trying to teach my dog her ABCs. But Lindsay, that's silly. Dogs can't speak. Exactly. According to Experiencing Animals' Minds, studies have shown a correlation between the use of inner speech and self-awareness. One study even showed that people with loss of inner speech due to a brain injury ended up having lower levels of self-awareness. Why is language so important? Language is what allows humans to give things more complex meaning than our primitive senses can alone. If my dog is offered a hamburger, her sense of smell will cause her mouth to salivate, and she will happily accept her meal, scarfing it down before her mom can take it away from her. If you type hamburger into a computer, it will tell me what a hamburger is and where you can get one. But if you offer me a hamburger, even if my stomach tells me I'm hungry, my brain will connect the burger of memories of cattle and the emotional bond I felt while petting them. Language and memory combine to turn a meal into a moral dilemma. If you've ever been kept awake by thoughts, you know how crazy a stream of conscious can be. It's a bit like late nights clicking suggested videos on YouTube, when you start out watching a song by Dodie and then 2 hours later you're watching a guy playing piano for elephants. True story, by the way. So, here's my train of thought. Starting with a burger. Which is a veggie burger, by the way, in case you hadn't guessed. As mentioned, for me, a hamburger causes me to think of the animal that had to be slaughtered to create it. I actually got to witness slaughters in my animal science class, which was hard. I still appreciate the experience, though, because I think it's important that we understand where our food comes from, and what has to happen in order for us to eat meat. One thing that really upset me in animal science was when we did a lab working with rats, and some girls were being really mean about rats, saying that they bite and are gross, when it was clear that they had never really gotten to know a rat. That reminds me of my rats, Pratchett and Nolan. I decided to paint Nolan's birthday photo. I made him and his brother tiny carrot cakes with their names on them, and they ate them with tiny birthday hats, which was adorable. That reminds me, I really hope I get a microscope for Christmas. I can just imagine myself asking someone for a sample of their blood when they accidentally cut themselves so that I can see tiny little red blood cells swimming about. That seems so cool. Which reminds me of vampires. I have pretty solid evidence that my roommate is one. First, she always sits in the dark. Second, sometimes she giggles in her sleep, like at 3 a.m. What does a vampire look like? My vampire looks like he's wearing really intense eye makeup. Oh well. I've started wearing eye makeup for the first time this year. I never wore it before because even though I really liked what it looked like, I thought people would judge me for wearing eye makeup because they might think that I'm trying to look pretty when I'm not or something. I don't know. It made sense. But I wear eye makeup now because I like it. Which reminds me of Pride. For Davis Pride this year, I dressed up in all pink, purple, and blue to look like the personification of the bi flag. But I also identify as demisexual, so I decided to paint that flag, because it's less well known and should be talked about more. Speaking of, once my friend asked me whether demisexual means that I'm only sexually attracted to demigods. Yes. Actually though, if you don't know what demisexual is, you should look it up. So, in the time that it took to plan this painting, my train of thought touched on morality, love, curiosity, humor, confidence, identity, and friendship. Human minds are pretty cool, am I right? So there's one more concept I want to expand on, which is the idea that linguistic capabilities of humans create a more complex cognitive experience than that of animals. Studies have shown that the same part of the brain used for language, the Broca's area, is also involved with music. So this connection of memory and language may also expand to music. Therefore, I have a challenge for myself representing a human with some musical ability. Humans and computers can both create music, but because humans have the ability to connect memories and emotion while computers can't, a human, me, should hypothetically be capable of playing the same song more emotionally than a computer. The song I'm using for this is Sur la Fille by Jan Tiersen.